I don't know about you, but when I think about meditation, I usually think about lighting candles and incense and sitting in a dark room and trying to get in touch with some deeper reality in the universe. I don't automatically connect it up with philosophy. But if we think about meditation broadly enough, just as using our mind or using reflection to put ourselves in touch with some deeper reality, then there's actually a deep and interesting connection between the two concepts. René Descartes, for instance, wrote a book called The Meditations that attempted to walk readers through a process at the end of which they would look around and better appreciate reality as it is. Or Confucius gave us a series of aphorisms that, if practiced in the right sort of way, would train your mind to pay attention to objects, the world around you, so that you could better appreciate their nature and the way things are. Today, I want to talk about Marcus Aurelius, who gives us another kind of philosophical meditation, and one that I think actually speaks to our lives. So Marcus Aurelius was an emperor in the 2nd century, and he had studied a bunch of different traditions within virtue ethics. He committed himself to one particular school called Stoicism. Of course, Stoicism in our culture means a particular thing. It means that you're not very emotional, or that you tend to suppress your reactions if people say something very surprising. Well, Stoicism, in its original sense, is actually just the name of a philosophical school of thought that really emphasizes being in touch with reality and not letting our surface level emotional reactions distort our view of that reality. So a couple of things that you need to know about the Stoics. The first is, what is their view of reality? Well, for the Stoics, there are a couple of things that are really real, just constants in life, things we can't escape. One of those things is just death, right? We're all going to eventually die. And when we die, things like our reputation, our wealth, even our relationships are going to go with us, right? We can't maintain those things. Another constant is change. Things are constantly changing, evolving. They cannot stay fixed forever. Now, Stoics encourage us to revisit these constants, to think about these things, to capture in short aphorisms or sentences our thoughts about these things so that we don't lose sight of what really matters. What matters for the Stoic? Things like virtue and inner growth, making sure that you are doing the right thing, that you're not being influenced by those around you to make poor choices. They also cared a lot about friendship and love and the ways in which these things could aid you in your journey to grow more virtuous. So how does this actually work? Well, look, Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, was writing a journal during a very tumultuous time, right? He was on the front lines of a battle. He was expanding the empire, commanding armies. He was fighting a plague. And yet, when he wrote things in this journal, he would try to focus his mind not on any of the externalities, not on any of the things that could and would immediately change, but on the things that he thought were truly important, the things that he thought really mattered. Here's a quote from Marcus Aurelius, right? He says, look, he's writing this in his journal. He says, "It will not be long before you will have forgotten all of the world. And in a little time, all the world will forget you too." The idea here, though, is that in order to make sure that he wasn't giving in to pride or arrogance, right, or getting too consumed with the activities of his everyday life, he was reminding himself, this is going to come to an end. I need to remember what really matters. Here's a quick practice that you can use if you want to implement some Stoic meditation in your own life. Okay, so first, pick a phrase, an image, or a memory that reminds you of what you think is most valuable in life. When I do this exercise, the things I tend to think of are the love that I have for my family, moments where I think I've grown or transformed as a person. Now, it really helps if you can think of something concrete that encapsulates that moment. All right, so write down some sort of aphorism that captures reality as you see it, the things you think are valuable and meaningful, and then you've got to revisit it. So one thing that's really important for Marcus Aurelius is that you revisit these things periodically, right? This is a practice, it's a habit. This is why it's a kind of meditation, right? Instead of just writing a note to yourself. You've got to revisit it, because then when you find yourself in a moment of anxiety or disruption, you can call that image to mind. You can use that phrase, or even call it a mantra, right, to remind yourself of what's deeply important and valuable. If you're not practicing it on an everyday basis, it's probably not going to do you much good to look at the phrase just when you're in the grips of fear or anxiety. But if you do revisit it from time to time, if you even keep these things in what you might call your Stoic journal, it can have a profound calming effect. It can put you in touch with what you think really matters. And that can be very stabilizing and reorienting.